Number 8. Devin Pelham. In June of 2015, 23-year-old Devin Pelham stumbled upon a Comcast worker in his bedroom, which sent him into a violent rage that eventually led to him being arrested and criminally charged. Pelham, who was living with his grandmother in Portland, Oregon, at the time, allegedly smashed computer parts and tossed various other objects around the room. After finding the worker replacing a modem, the young man's grandmother confronted him about his infantile behavior, at which point he slapped the elderly woman and threw her to the ground. Pelham was asked to leave the house, but upon doing so, he began breaking his grandmother's potted plants and shattering her car windows. He then vandalized a vehicle belonging to his great-grandmother, who tried to stop him only to be punched and knocked to the pavement. A neighbor who'd witnessed the tantrum up to that point helped the great-grandmother escape. Pelham subsequently targeted 2 of the neighbors' cars using a brick, glass bottles, and a wood plank to inflict a myriad of scratches, break a side mirror, and smash the windshield. Police eventually arrived at the scene, where they found a shirtless Pelham with a brick in his hand. The young man shifted his ire towards law enforcement, reportedly kicking and spitting while being restrained in the back of a cruiser. He was booked into the Multnomah County Jail on charges of 1st and 2nd degree criminal mischief, harassment, and 4th degree assault. Number 7. Kylie Dippery. In the late evening hours of August the 16th of 2019, the police in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, heard a woman screaming loudly in the area of 143 Rehoboth Avenue. Officers subsequently encountered 22-year-old Kylie Dippery, who was said to have been in hysterics because she'd gotten separated from her boyfriend. Law enforcement helped reunite the young woman with her boyfriend at a nearby hotel. Then a few minutes later, the police were called back to the hotel after Dippery had begun screeching yet again. It was subsequently reported that she simply would not stop screaming and began to disturb several other hotel guests, at which point the officers took her into custody. As Dippery was being led into a patrol car, she allegedly became combative, kicking an officer in the leg and continuing her incessant yelling. After finally being restrained, Dippery reportedly vomited in the police cruiser and urinated on the floor of the holding area at the Rehoboth Beach Police Department. The Pennsylvania resident was booked on charges of resisting arrest with force or violence, offensive touching of a law enforcement officer, disorderly conduct, and creating a physically offensive condition. She was held at the Sussex Correctional Institution on $3,200 secured bail. Number 6. William David Scott Jolly. A video in which a man was captured throwing a violent tantrum at a Canadian McDonald's began circulating online in the summer of 2021. The footage showed the irate customer named as William David Scott Jolly knocking down plastic safety guards, throwing a garbage can at employees, and aggressively destroying the fast food eatery's displays as workers and customers alike pleaded with him to stop. The incident, which reportedly took place at the Ironwood Plaza in Richmond, British Columbia, led to 30-year-old Jolly getting arrested on charges that included mischief over $5,000, assault, and assaulted a peace officer. The latter count stemmed from the fact that upon the arrival of law enforcement at the restaurant, Jolly became violent with the arresting officers before finally being restrained. It subsequently emerged that the entire ordeal had been precipitated by Jolly's order being mistyped as a Happy Meal. Although the staff offered to refund the man's money for the mistake, he became belligerent and hostile, at which point the police were called, which only infuriated him further. Number 5. Passion Shanae Coleman and Laglenda Damona Carr. At about 1:30 p.m. on October the 5th of 2019, law enforcement in Costa Mesa, California were called to Maggiano's Little Italy in the 3300 block of Bristol Street after receiving reports of vandalism. Officers arrived at the restaurant a short time later, whereupon they arrested a pair of women, one of whom was a disgruntled former employee, in a nearby parking lot after they'd allegedly attempted to flee the scene. It was ultimately determined that Passion Shanae Coleman and Laglenda Damona Carr had targeted the former's previous employer in an unhinged outburst in which thousands of dollars worth of damage was reportedly caused with a baseball bat. The women destroyed a television set as well as table settings and plates while shouting and behaving disruptively. After being booked at the Costa Mesa Police Department jail, 27-year-old Coleman was charged with assault with a deadly weapon, criminal threats, felony vandalism, burglary, felony conspiracy to commit crimes, and a misdemeanor warrant for a suspended license. Her bail was set at $500,000. Carr, who was 24 at the time, reportedly faced the same charges but had her bail set at only $25,000. In February of the following year, Coleman reached a plea deal with prosecutors, which led to her spending 180 days in jail for the destructive Tantrum. Her accomplice also pleaded guilty and was consequently sentenced to 200 hours of community service, as well as 45 days in jail. Number 4. Andrew O'Keefe. A former Australian television presenter best known for hosting the game shows Deal or No Deal and The Chase Australia, was arrested in January of 2022 for an alleged domestic violence incident at his Sydney bachelor pad. Andrew O'Keefe, who was 50 at the time of his latest run-in with law enforcement, was accused of attacking a 38-year-old woman who'd come to his apartment to discuss the possibility of them starting a business together. Subsequent reports detailed how the man had grabbed the victim by the throat and pushed her to the ground before unloading a barrage of strikes upon her. The incident ultimately garnered international attention, but mostly due to the unhinged tantrum O'Keefe threw while being taken into police custody in the aftermath. As was recorded by television news cameras present at the scene, the ex-TV star shouted profanities at law enforcement and kicked the walls of a police van while being led out of his home. O'Keefe repeatedly cried that he was the victim of a crime, while urging the officers to get rid of the journalists. The man was later denied bail while being held on 2 counts of intentionally choking a person without consent, 3 counts of common assault, and assault occasioning actual bodily harm. His arrest marked the second time in a year that it faced domestic assault charges. Back in January of 2021, O'Keefe had been accused of attacking his partner but later had those charges dismissed after it was determined that he'd been in a hypomanic bipolar state when the offending occurred. Number 3. 2017 tube train rant. An unruly passenger on board a London tube train went viral in March of 2017 after video footage of his outburst surfaced on social media. The incident occurred after the unnamed male traveler allegedly barged past a woman who responded to his perceived impertinence by saying, "Excuse me." The seemingly trivial exchange ultimately provoked the man into unleashing a rage-fueled rant at her in front of dozens of shocked witnesses. As was captured in a cell phone video recorded by fellow passenger Nick Craven, the furious man bellowed, "Don't you shout at me, you stupid woman," before asserting that he was the last person she'd want to start on. The other people on board the Hammersmith and City Line train bound for Barking attempted to calm the man down, but he continued his expletive-filled tantrum for roughly 3 minutes. The situation organically diffused itself when the man finally returned to his seat to calm down, reportedly by playing Sudoku. Today's topic was requested by Ryoku Matai and Calvin C. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Tina Kindred. Florida woman Tina Kindred was tased and arrested by Ocala law enforcement after having thrown a tantrum in the Nude at a pair of local restaurants on June the 4th of 2021. The 53-year-old was caught on video smashing glass bottles and breaking other merchandise while unclothed at both a Mojo Grill and Outback in the Marion County city. Employees and other diners at the eateries pleaded with Kindred to stop as she wreaked havoc, destroying seemingly everything she could get her hands on while screaming incoherently. An Ocala police officer was eventually called to the Outback, where he approached the woman and attempted to calm her down. Kindred instead proceeded to launch glass bottles at the officer, who shouted at her to get on the ground after one of them hit him in the arm. The woman refused to comply, however, at which point the policeman deployed his taser to subdue her. She was consequently taken into custody on charges of aggravated battery on law enforcement and felony criminal mischief. In the wake of the incident, it emerged that Kindred had been denied service at Mojo Grill before entering both restaurants in search of revenge. Number 1. Lauren Pazienza. On the night of March the 10th of 2022, an elderly New Yorker was tragically killed as a result of an unprovoked attack in the city's Chelsea neighborhood. The victim, a beloved former voice coach named Barbara Meyer Gustern, had been left critically injured after a red-headed woman approached her on the sidewalk along West 28th Street and shoved her to the ground from behind. 87-year-old Gustern's skull violently collided with the concrete below, and she remained hospitalized for about 5 days before ultimately succumbing to her head wound. The NYPD used surveillance footage to identify Gustern's attacker as Lauren Pazienza, who was arrested on 2 counts of second-degree assault. Following the victim's death, Pazienza also reportedly faced a manslaughter charge. Investigators subsequently determined that on the night of the deadly incident, Pazienza had flown into a rage after she and her fiancé were asked to leave nearby Chelsea Park because it was after closing time. The woman was alleged to have been slightly intoxicated after having consumed a few glasses of wine to celebrate their upcoming wedding. Her drunken tantrum continued after she allegedly threw food at her partner and crossed the street, at which point she shoved Gustern, with whom she had no prior association. In the immediate aftermath, Pazienza reportedly deleted her social media accounts, hid her cell phone, and fled to her parents' Long Island home, but was eventually tracked down by the authorities and thrown in jail. She was released on a $500,000 bond but later rearrested after being deemed a serious flight risk. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office extended multiple plea deal offers to Pazienza, all of which she turned down, ensuring her case would go to trial. The court proceedings were scheduled to begin in October of 2022. Thanks for watching. Would you rather have an unruly customer throw a tantrum every time you go to your favorite restaurant, or get every movie you see in the theater spoiled by someone else in the crowd? Let us know in the comment section below.